Trey Allen easily won the GOP nomination, getting his name on the ballot for the North Carolina Supreme Court. His victory could help determine which party controls the high court.
You know, I grew up in rural Robeson County. I'm the first lawyer in my family, and I feel so privileged to be running for this office.
Trey Allen's legal career started out as a prosecutor with the U.S. Marines. He's currently the general counsel for the state's administrative office of the courts. Do you have any experience as a judge?
I have not been a judge, but that's not unusual. I mean, 3 of the justices on our court now were not judges previously. And if you look at federal appellate courts, it's quite common for federal appellate court judges to go directly from practice or from academia to the bench.
Allen says he's raised about $700,000 for his campaign. Could you have imagined at some point prior to now that you would have raised that kind of money or needed to for a judicial race?
The only fundraising I've ever done before this race was as the popcorn kernel for my children's scout troop. So no.
Allen says besides experience, voters should consider judicial philosophy when picking judges. He says his philosophy is pretty straightforward.
I don't think the Constitution is a document that judges are free to rewrite to suit, you know, whatever their personal political opinions are. I think judges, I think they really abuse their position when they do that. They need to stick to the Constitution as it was understood at the time of ratification, to ensure that they're judging and not legislating.
How do you understand what the forefathers of this country really intended when they wrote the Constitution?
Right. Yeah, that's a challenge, and depending on the provision, it can be more challenging than others. But there is a lot of historical data to work with.
Allen cites the Federalist Papers as one example of historical reference. He says there's no room for judges to interpret the law using their own views.
The Constitution is not silly putty that I can mold to fit whatever shape I think it ought to have.
Do you think the public trust is very high right now in the Supreme Court in North Carolina?
You know, I don't know. I haven't seen any polling data on it. I mean, there's anecdotal evidence. Certainly, as I've gone around the state campaigning over the last year and a half or so, I've heard people, you know, express concerns that the court may be injecting itself too much into political issues.
So your opponent says the courts are at a crossroads right now, and that it's up to the voter to choose whether they want a fair and impartial court or a partisan political institution in the courts. What do you say to that? What's your response?
Well, I would, in a sense, agree with that. But, you know, I would say to people, look at my body of scholarship. A lot of my work that I've done as a faculty member at the School of Government is publicly available. I think anyone who reads my writings as a professor wouldn't be able to tell you from those what my party is.
Allen says there's no room for politics on the bench, but the North Carolina Supreme Court is expected to face a potential slew of political issues, such as redistricting, voter ID, and abortion. One group that's endorsed Allen is the North Carolina Values Coalition, a strong pro-life advocate.
No endorsement that I receive will have any impact on how I would approach an issue or rule on an issue as a justice on the court. I would do my absolute best to approach every case with an open mind and to base my decision on my best understanding of the law and the facts.
Do you think anything needs to be done about recusal at the Supreme Court level?
That's a complicated issue. Right now it's left to each individual justice, although they have the option of referring the matter to the full court. I think it probably needs to be left that way. Trey Allen says if elected, he will try very hard to act like a judge and not a legislator. Bill O'Neill, WXII 12 News.